Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I've been here on the podcast. It is me, Karen Maloney, and this is another episode of the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. And yes, I'm on YouTube as well if anyone is watching on video. Hello. And since we last connected, I've made it back to Ireland. I'll probably be here for the summer anyway, with some trips in between. And yeah, the last time I think I recorded something was a couple of weeks ago and back in Mexico. So it's just taken some time to adjust and ground. And, unlike when I had the podcast before, I was so regimented in weekly and schedule and trying to be perfectionist, which it's fine, to have a schedule and to be consistent. But now that I'm just doing solo episodes, it's a bit more flowy. And when I feel inspired to share something is when I kind of hit record. So here we are. And what's coming through for me at the moment is really a huge piece around identity. And, as the saying goes, we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And who we are is so much bigger than the mental, human, physical part of I'm Karen, I'm X age, I do this, I do that, I have this role, I earn this much money, I drive this car, I live here, I live there, I have this house. So many of us think that is our identity. And our identity is so much more. Our identity more comes down to the frequency that we hold in our nervous system. And that's what drives everything. And that's why, for all of us, we can have aspects of our lives where we can thrive and we can manifest and we have what we want and we're doing really well. And in other parts, no matter what we do sometimes, or we can change everything on the outside, whether the job, the relationship, the house, whatever, and nothing still really changes. And that's because fundamentally, we have our identity upside down and back to front and inside out. Like I say, we identify with the human, with the character, with the ego, with the roles we play. And yes, that's an aspect because this is the reality that we are in and the vessel and the body we've been given to have this experience. But the bigger piece of our identity that we are missing, that is coming up even stronger for me, that I believe is at the crux of pretty much everything in our life. That sounds like a lot, everything, but it is such a huge aspect. And that is the identity of the truth of who we are, which is energy, spirit, God, the divine, a fractal of the divine, one consciousness, whatever word you want to call it. And again, I'm not just saying this. Ancient traditions, religions, all sorts of spiritual leaders, ancient texts have said this for years and years and years and years. It's literally the oldest story going that we are not a human having a spiritual experience. We are a spirit having a human experience. And I believe that disconnection from the bigger truth of who we are, that energetic piece, that intuitive, that all knowing, that higher consciousness piece, is a fundamental root and is an aspect that when we are cut off from that, we miss the bigger picture, we suffer more than necessary, we get caught in the density of the human and the stories and the trap and the matrix. And as a result, things are, I don't want to say more difficult, because even when you're connected to your truth as a spirit in form or a energetic being having a human experience, there's still going to be challenges and density because it's not about just disconnecting and flying high and not experiencing anything. This is the plane of demonstration. This is the realm of experience. We came here to experience a whole host of experiences. I remember I wrote a blog post years ago now. This amazing flow came through me and I just typed it up. But again, it's that truth of This human body, Karen, in my case, because that's my name and identity, is a temporary experience. It is the vehicle, it is the body, the vehicle, the vessel that my spirit chose for my spirit to have an experience. Because again, when we are spirit, when we are that energy, which is not woo woo, it is completely scientifically proven. The quantum is real. Actually, energy is more real than this whole reality. Energy is 99.999% of reality. This reality is just 1%. So, again, when we are overly fixated through our senses to this reality and we have really strict and rigid attachment to things and situations and outcomes and all these sorts of things, again, we are missing 99% of reality. Science has proven, quantum science has proven that space and energy, which they always thought was empty, is actually full of information. And it's that energy, it's that space that is informing this reality. It's not the other way around. It's not matter informing energy. It is energy. It is the field, the quantum field, again, that has been proven that is informing matter. And again, there's this whole identity crisis within us, each of us individually in the first place. When we are disconnected from that aspect, again, we miss the whole truth of this experience. It is an experience, and we're here to experience it all, and we can experience it all. It's not that if I identify as a spirit, well, then I have to forget about my human. And this is part of my own struggle because I've been on this journey a long time, and I was conflicted. I'm like, I don't know where I fit in because I'm very spiritual. I absolutely believe that is the truth of us, but yet I'm not totally out there woo woo. I'm very grounded. But then I'm also not so human, stuck in the matrix. So I had this inner conflict of where do I fit in? How do I choose one or the other? Because I thought it was one or the other. Whereas, no, it is about unifying both. And this is part of my mission. This is the mission that came to me last year, the tattoo that I have on my left wrist that says Spirit in Form in Spanish. And I recorded a podcast on this last year when this whole awakening was coming through me. But I'm here to help humanity unify the dance between spirit and human, spirit and form, energy and matter, leading with energy, leading with our higher self, leading with spirit, leading with that higher consciousness, and allowing it to inform our human. But it's not one or the other, and it's not a battle anymore. It is releasing the conditioning, the limitation, the survival in the nervous system in the human that we can allow our spirit to move through us. Because when we connect to spirit, when we connect to our universe, higher self, God, whatever word you use, a lot of people are afraid to follow it because, for the most part, it doesn't really make sense. When we get these intuitive nudges, they kind of come out of nowhere. They don't make much sense. When we're following intuition as well, we only ever get one piece of information at a time. So it takes huge courage. It takes huge presence. It takes huge faith. It takes huge trust to take action on these steps because, again, they often seem illogical, crazy, out there. And because we're not given the whole plan, we decide to just stay in the comfort zone, go back to our mind and logicalize and rationalize and accept a lot of the time things coming along our way. And again, our human brain, that logical, rational part, has a piece to play. But our intuition is an intellect far greater, far higher than logic and rationale. But How do we learn to lead with our spirit? How do we learn to trust our intuition? How do we build faith and trust in that aspect of ourselves that is our own unique GPS system for each of us? Well, we only build that trust and faith in it through action. If we never act on these pieces, we will never be able to build a trust that, oh, it actually worked out okay, or oh, it actually worked out even better than okay. Because if we're not taking action, we can't think how it might turn out. We will never know. Action is the greatest antidote to everything. And that's the identity piece that I'm talking about as well, that we need to identify it as our spirit and identify as the person that we desire to be, the person that we are becoming, and then do the work on the human level to change and regulate our nervous system to be able to hold that frequency of the person that we are becoming. Because again, this whole realm is an experience. We get to evolve, we get to change, we get to grow, we get to experience new things, but only if we're willing to take action, only if we're willing to play full out. When we get in our human, when we get in our comfort zone, we shut off, we shut down, we get constricted, we get restricted. And when that happens as well, when we shut off, we're literally dimming our light, we're dimming our spirit, we're dimming our essence, we're dimming our life force energy, and we're kind of sleepwalking through life. And I mean, we all know people sleepwalking through life. I was there as well for so long. I still fall asleep at times. But this is the part of learning to unify and awaken to both, knowing when you're in your spirit aspect and knowing when you're in your human aspect, and getting to know them, being very familiar with each aspect of yourself because we are both. And again, we get to integrate, we get to have them both work in unison and be a supporting aid to each other. Because, like that, you get that intuitive hit from your spirit. You and your human have to have the courage, the faith to take action on it. And in that piece as well, when you start taking action, there will also be a place for your logical, rational thinking mind and all of that. But when we lead from that place of human level thinking, five senses living, we're cut off from, again, the whole magic and possibility of what this experience can be for each of us. Think of it like a prism. You know, you have your little triangle, there's one ray of light coming through, and then it opens into a prism and you see all the colors. When we are living by limited by our five senses, we're just that one ray coming into the prism, but then we're stuck there. We're not seeing the totality of the light of the possibility because we're not connected to our higher selves. And, you know, I think, have we got to the time now where it's not crazy to follow your intuition, that it's not ridiculous to think that maybe we are something greater than just a human having a life experience? I hope, and I've definitely seen over the years, people being much more open to these kind of conversations, to this way of thinking and living, whether they're actually living it themselves or not. They're more open, which is huge. And I believe it's because as well we've come to such a crisis point that the way we've been living is not working. It's not working. Most people are stressed, are in debt up to their eyes, are not enjoying their lives, are not happy, are not filled with joy. They're just kind of suffering through their days with this kind of low level sense of stress. And that's not the sum total of life. And again, stress is a part of life. There is nothing wrong with stress, but our body, our nervous system is not designed to live there 24/7. And we are living there 24/7 because we have cut ourselves off from the truth of who we are. And that's what ties back to this root identity issue in the first place that we're forgetting. We're forgetting the bigger picture. We're so like blinkered in life, not everyone, but especially in the Western world. Because again, you go outside of the Western world, you go to indigenous cultures, you go to places where they still live very connected to the land, to the rhythms of the sun and life, you will see a very different experience. But if you're only ever in the Western world, you won't see that. You don't know that. So you think this is the sum total of life. And, I just get on the rat race and that's it. I work. I don't spend much time doing things that I love. I buy a few things. I'm in debt and then I die. Like, no, that's not the sum total of life. And actually, in that blog post that I wrote years ago as well, when we again misidentify and completely cut off from the spirit that we are, the soul that we are, and get so blinkered in our human, we're actually doing a disservice to our soul. We're doing a disservice to that spirit that came, that chose to have a life experience, that incarnated for a reason, to bring the energy and essence of who and what they are, even though they're not a form, to bring that energy and essence to life through a body, to express that life and light and essence to the world in their own unique way, whether it's through their voice, through their art, through their work, through just their presence, through whatever million and one ways that spirit, that my soul, that your soul, that each of our individual souls came here to express. They came for a reason. And if you don't get curious about your own soul, about your own spirit, about what that energy and essence is for you, and what and how it wants to express through the vehicle of your body, your voice, your eyes, your presence, your look, your energy, all of it, we have to give our vessel over to spirit, which again comes down to the nervous system, to clearing or conditioning or programming or ego. Not that we clear it forever and it has to die off. No, but we have to become acutely aware of it. Aware when we're in the reactive, aware when we're in our fear, aware when we're in our human. And that's an opportunity to connect back to the truth of who we are, our spirit, our soul, and allow that energy to move through again. Because that energy, that light is huge. And this has been my experience. It's so huge, it's actually terrifying. It's terrifying in a really like, again, my human is like, who am I to do this? Who am I to talk about this? Like, oh my God, this is too much. But it's not, because there's no limit with spirit. There is no limit with our soul. There's only the limits in our human. And that's our work. That's our piece to move through, to dissolve, to let go of. So this essence and energy can move through. And like I say, when we feel it sometimes and when we ignore it and cut off, we're doing a disservice to our soul, to that energy that came here to express, which in turn is doing a disservice to ourselves and doing a disservice to humanity as a whole, because we are all one. And when we remember our truth, our light, our essence, our magnificence, and begin to express as that again, and again, that is not from an ego, power, greed over another way. That's the human piece to clear. When we are expressing as our spirit, as our soul, that is from a oneness, a divine love and connection and interconnectedness that we see that we are all one. That's part of the journey. So that's the work. And that's the piece that's coming through for me to share with you. And I think I'll be doing more on this because it's come up again so present for me. Like I say, the awakening I had last year, this spirit in form kind of mission and movement was coming through for me. And I was like, yes, I get it. And then I kind of forgot. And it's coming up again because I was still in that battle of either or. Like, where do I fit in? I don't fit in with the super, super spiritual living off the grid woo woo. And I don't fit in with the human matrix, like buy all these things and have loads of nice things and not get to enjoy the experience of life and die. So this was my own battle. I thought it had to be one or the other. But again, no, it is the unifying. It is learning to dance between the two. And unbeknownst to me, that's what I've been doing all along. So I'm going to be sharing more on how we can lead that dance, how we can dance in that dance. And it starts with our human and our body and knowing our essence, and then integrating them and weaving them. So let me know if that lands. Let me know if anything pops out at you. And I'm sure, like that, there's many of you who maybe can relate to not knowing where you fit in, not being able to exactly find your place. Maybe you've been conflicted as well between both worlds. And no, it's about unifying them. But it's about leading as spirit, getting so clear on that energy and allowing, getting our nervous system so safe, so present to just express and move as that essence in form while we have a body through this vessel, through this vehicle. Because I believe that's the bigger piece of why we're all here. And I'm excited to see what your spirit is here to express. So let's get on it. As always, I'd love to hear any of your comments. Feel free to reach out. Follow me on Instagram at Karen Maloney with an underscore after the Y. Check out my website, karenmaloney.com. And I will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye.